3, 2, 1, you're on.
Good afternoon and welcome to our daily COVID-19 update for the town of Plymouth. This is our 26th update coming to you live on Thursday, April 16th, 2020 from PAC TV studios here in Plymouth. I'm Steve Triffletti, your Plymouth Town Moderator, and we're here each day, Monday through Friday at noon for this update. This forum is being brought to you live by PAC TV on Comcast channels 13 and 15 and Verizon channels 43 and 47. You can also watch this on PAC TV's streaming channel by going to pactv.org/live. For questions during today's forum, please email us to plymouthinfo@pactv.org. And these forums are replayed at pactv.org/Plymouth. Today, our participants include Ken Tavares and Mathew Muratore, who join me each day. And today's panel includes Joseph McIntyre. He is the Assistant Clerk Magistrate for the Southeastern Housing Court. Also, Dr. Stacy Rogers. She's the Director of Special Education for Plymouth Public Schools. Gary Costin. He is the Business Administrator for Plymouth Public Schools. Stephen Cole. He's the Executive Director for the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. And we're going to begin, as we do each day, with our opening welcome from Ken Tavares, Chair of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Steve, and good afternoon to everyone. I don't have much new to report, but I think I just wanted to talk about just how we feel and the frustration and the lack of patience. This morning I woke up a bit frustrated, but laughter has a great cure for all of this. Julie at PAC TV told us something that was quite funny before the program started, and it seemed to kind of lift some of that other heaviness away. I know that we are all tired and certainly have good reason to be, but just hang in there and keep doing what you're doing. We're making progress, and we have to remind ourselves for that. Those that are on the front line, the medical folk, police, fire, DPW, postal workers, grocery store folks, and those that are preparing meals to go are playing such a large role. And the rest of us just need to keep in mind that we need to stay in place right now. We need to keep the proper distance, wash those hands, and wear a mask if you're out and can't maintain a safe distance. I know that, as I said earlier, it is frustrating, but together we're going to do it, and we will beat this. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, and that's Kenneth Tavares. He's Chair of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen, and today we have 3 new participants joining us. The first is Joseph McIntyre. He is the Assistant Clerk Magistrate for the Southeastern Housing Court. Joe, I know that you serve both landlords and tenants in the town of Plymouth. I've actually had the pleasure of working with you at the Southeastern Housing Court. Welcome, and what do you have to tell us about your court's response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
First of all, thank you, Attorney Triffletti, for having me on today, and my greetings to my colleagues on the panel. And also my thanks to you and the town of Plymouth for this important public service. So I'd like to cover 2 topics during my presentation. The first is the operation of the courts during the pandemic. And then secondly, try to provide you with some information, or rather contact information, should you need to access the courts. So the good news is that the court remains in operation despite the ongoing pandemic and shutdowns. The court remains in operation for emergencies. All other matters, all non-emergency matters, so those are your typical evictions, small claims matters, other types of civil matters, those have all been continued to some date after May 4th. The court will notify you when you're going to return to court. But if you have a non-emergency matter, rest assured that it hasn't been forgotten about, your rights are not being neglected, The court has simply transferred everything to a date after May 4th, and we will resume at that time. So if you haven't heard or received an order to report in for a telephonic hearing, then you can be confident that your case has been preserved and simply delayed to another date. There are other emergency matters, and emergency matters are still being heard. We hear those telephonically. No individuals are allowed inside the courthouse without an express order of the justice, but emergency matters are being heard. Now, what is an emergency matter? Well, if you're being locked out of your apartment, or if the utilities have been shut off, if the heat has been shut off, if lights or whatever, water, etc., has been shut off, then that would be an emergency that you would need to bring to the attention of the court. The court would take some action. Let's say you're a landlord and you have a tenant who has become violent, or by their actions, they are jeopardizing other people's health and safety. Likewise, that would be an emergency, and you would bring that to the court. And in those instances, the court will have a hearing, and they will do it via telephone or video conferencing if that's available. And indeed, the court has been pretty active in that regards, handling a pretty steady stream of emergency hearings. Another type of emergency would be a tenant who receives a notice that they're about to be removed from their apartment in the next 48 hours, wherever it is they live. Again, if a tenant was in that situation and thought that they had no place to move to safely, they could ask the court by an emergency motion for additional time. And again, the court would entertain that motion and have a hearing if it was contested, and do so telephonically. So the emergency matters remain. Non-emergency matters are continued. Another important category is deadlines. Now, people have answers to complaints, they have interrogatories or other discovery that they've requested. There may have been an appeal deadline. All of the deadlines, likewise, have been suspended and continued to May 4th. So I want to make sure I explain that clearly. Whatever time you had left on your deadline as of the date this moratorium went into effect, whatever time was left, that will resume as of May 4th. So the current orders that I'm talking about went into effect March 18th. So if there were 3 days left on a deadline as of March 18th, on May 4th, likewise, you will come back and you will then see you have 3 days left after May 4th. I also want to point out that that date may change. So it's an evolving situation, but right now, May 4th is the date that the court is scheduled to reopen. It may change, so you want to pay attention to some of the websites I'm going to give you a little bit from now. Another important thing to remember is that the Housing Court has consolidated all its sessions. So the Plymouth session is now being held in Fall River. That's our home office, and I'm going to give you the contact information for that. But the Housing Court operates a session in 5 different localities. All of them have been combined into a single session in Fall River. So that, I believe, addresses the current state of affairs regarding the operation of the court. One last thing I just want to note. If a default judgment went into effect during the time of the court's closure, so if you're a tenant and you received a default judgment, under the current orders, that default judgment will be removed upon a motion. So if you are in that situation and you had a default judgment, you would want to submit your motion before May 4th. And according to the current orders, that will automatically be vacated. After May 4th, the judge will use his or her discretion in determining whether or not a default judgment should be vacated or not. So, quick summary, the court remains in operation. It is operating out of Fall River. We're handling emergencies. Deadlines have been extended, have been suspended and extended, what we call tolling, till May 4th, and they'll resume on May 4th. And non-emergency matters have been continued to a date after May 4th, and you'll receive some notification from the court when it is time to resume. Now, let me give you some information. Let's say you have an emergency and you need to get a hold of the court. Well, I believe, Attorney Triffletti, there's a graphic you're going to show, and I want to just go over some of that with the viewing audience. So the first piece of information you need to know is, where is the Fall River Courthouse located? That's 289 Rock Street in Fall River. 289 Rock Street, Fall River, Mass. 02720. I wouldn't go there because you're not going to be allowed in, only if you have an express order from a judge to appear personally. So no human beings are being allowed inside the courthouse without an order from a judge. But should you need to mail something by first-class mail, by all means, do so. We have a email address, and it is as follows: Southeast with a capital S, housing, capital H, court, capital C, at jud.state.ma.us. That is a general email address. So if you have any questions, feel free to email them to us, and we will do our best to respond. And again, we do a pretty brisk business in both phone calls and in emails from people seeking information about the status of their case. So don't hesitate to be in touch with us. There's staff there, and we'll be happy to respond and apprise you as to the status of your case. A phone number, now this is key. The phone number for the housing court remains 508-677-1505. 508-677-1505. You can call us there, and that is the best phone number to use to contact the housing court. So even if you're in Plymouth or you're in Barnstable or you're wherever, and you need to get a hold of the Southeast Housing Court, use that Fall River number, 508-677-1505. You're going to have to go through some voice prompts. You'll have to select the digit 3 on your telephone pad, and then another prompt. You will select 300 to speak to clerical staff. But in all events, those phones are manned, and you should use that as the primary source for reaching us by telephone. There is also an 800 number or an emergency helpline. That's 833-91-COURT, 833-91-COURT. So you can use that, but I would suggest using the primary number that I gave earlier. The helpline will put you into a statewide system, and the case will be evaluated and referred, whereas the number I gave earlier will allow you direct access to staff of the court. So indeed, the helpline is there, it's available, but I personally observe that the 508-677-1505 number is a better and more direct route. So use those to contact us. We're open from 8:30 to 4:30. There's staff there all the time. We deal with a lot of informational questions, a lot of requests for status of a case, a lot of procedural questions, and we are there to help. We have both housing staff, housing specialist staff, as well as clerical staff, and we will arrange a hearing if we need to. Now, a couple of other things you want to keep in mind. If you have an emergency, or you need an emergency hearing, it is best to file those pleadings via e-filing. So e-filing is an electronic filing system that the Housing Court has instituted as of January, and it allows you to submit all of your pleadings via your computer. If you don't have access to a computer, we will still accept written pleadings, but you have to serve them by first-class mail, and that may be a delay. It is encouraged that you use the online system, the e-filing system. How would you get access to that? Well, again, in the graphic, you will see the address for calling up that page on the Mass Trial Court. So the page address is mass, all lowercase, .gov/guides/e-filing in the housing court. And that will direct you to directions and an overview of how a person would e-file and provide you with the link to give you the portal for both attorneys and non-attorneys alike to e-file your documents. It's important to note that indigent litigants will have their filing fees waived during this time. You have to select the waiver request. You have to submit an affidavit of indigency. It's an electronic form. It is included as part of the packet, and it will be reviewed at a later date to see whether or not indeed you are indigent. But the indigency should not be a barrier to using the e-filing system. If you're genuinely indigent, nonetheless, use the e-filing system. It's recommended. Seek the waiver. And if indeed you are indigent, then those costs will be waived. Another important access point is for persons to keep track of their cases, and you could do that via this next address. It's www.masscourts, all one word, masscourts.org. And that is a portal or a website that would allow you to keep track of your file. It's public records indicating what is the status of your case and what pleadings have been filed, what your next dates are, etc. So the public has access to it. You need to know your docket number or the name of the case. But if you were of a mind to try to track on your own the status of your case, anybody, whether you're an attorney or a non-attorney, has every right to keep track of it, and that is the portal that a person could access. Now, this next address that I'm going to give you, this next contact point, I think is very, very valuable, and it will be the last one that I will give to you. And this is the trial court, the Mass Trial Court's special COVID response page. It has all the links, all of the orders, all of the information that you need, whether you're an attorney or a non-attorney, to learn about the operation of the court and how to access information about your individual case. So the contact information for that is mass.gov/guides/court system response to COVID-19. So no, that's a lot to type in. A shortcut, frankly, is just Google in Mass Trial Court. Virtually any trial court webpage that comes up will have a yellow band across the top of it. It says something like courthouse closed until May 4th. Click on that, and that will immediately bring you to the COVID-19 response page. And then you want to scroll down to the section, the heading that says Housing Court. Click on that, and that will bring you into just a wealth of information about how the trial court is operating, and will answer many of your questions. And in fact, there's a very comprehensive frequently asked questions section on that webpage. And I have to give the court a lot of credit. I thought they were very thoughtful. They're very complete and give a lot of information and will answer many questions that people have. So I know I've gone on at length, but those are the 2 points I wanted to cover with the viewing audience, that the court remains in operation for emergencies, non-emergency matters, and deadlines have been continued to May 4th or a date thereafter, and you'll receive information about it. All our operations have been consolidated in Fall River, so you should contact us in Fall River if you need us. And there are any number of ways that you can contact us, either by telephone, by email, or preferably by e-filing. And and so I recommend them to you so that when we eventually do come back to something like normal, the system will still be intact and we can proceed with as little disruption as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's Joseph McIntyre. He is the Assistant Clerk Magistrate, Southeastern Housing Court. You can send your questions for all the members of the panel to PlymouthInfo@pactv.org. And each day we date stamp up in the top right-hand corner the date for the live presentation. We're now going to go to Dr. Stacy Rogers. She's the Director of Special Education for the Plymouth Public Schools. Welcome, Stacy.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good. Tell us what's happening with special education in Plymouth.
So first off, I want to just say hi to any of our students and families who are watching. I want to let them know that we miss them. Your teachers miss you, and we can't wait to be back. And I also want to thank our teachers, our support staff, and our leadership team. As this has been said so many times before, this is completely unprecedented, and we've really had to reinvent ourselves in a very short period of time. And the work that the teachers are doing behind the scenes has really been outstanding, amazing, and absolutely just incredible what they've been able to do for their students and their families in, again, just a very short period of time. I want to start by saying that health and safety is our #1 priority. And per the governor's orders, we are not able to deliver education, obviously, in the same way we have been before. So to that end, we've created a distance learning plan, which you may have heard a little bit about from Dr. Campbell when he was on. Special education looks a little bit different than that. So we have several ways that we've been able to reach out to students and families. And what I would like to stress to any families who have questions or who are struggling to definitely reach out to building principals or support staff. We will be able to help you in some way, maybe not in an ideal way, but there is support and services available to you and your families should you need them. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So the first thing that we have for our special education students are live learning sessions. This is when a teacher might post, let's say, a reading group or a morning meeting, and it would be a live session. So students have been able to log in via Google Meet and actually get to talk live with their teachers. And teachers are able to read a story or do morning meeting or do calendar. Maybe be able to do a reading group or a math session with their students. The students really seem to enjoy this. I've gotten a couple of live videos and I've been on a couple of live calls with our teachers. And I think our students are really just missing the social aspects of school. So they're really, really happy and thrilled to see each other, even if it's in a virtual way. And we've had really, really great attendance with all of these sessions. So I think that has been helpful and be able to be accessed. The second part of our distance learning is a prepared session. So that's when teachers maybe, again, record a lesson or record a story, and then they're able to upload it onto a Google platform. And so students can access that at any point in time during the day. So we know that, family dynamics have shifted and people's schedules have shifted. And so it may not be ideal to log on let's say Thursday at 10 o'clock. And so teachers are able to upload those sessions, and then parents and families can access those at any point in time. We have self-directed learning, which teachers are uploading assignments and things like that, and students are able to do that in a self-directed way at their own pace. As part of that, we've also been able to provide families with activity packets. They are at all of the elementary buildings. Outside of every elementary building is a small, what we call like a book nook. So there are learning materials and things like that parents can go and get for their kids along with a book. And those are available pretty much. I try to run around Plymouth and fill those every Friday with our lunch program as well. So that's an opportunity for you to get some work packets and some activity packets out to our kids. Resources and intervention support. So this is remote instruction from our related service providers. So our OTs, our PTs, our speech and language pathologists, our school psychologists, again, are working with our families virtually, either online at a live session or being able to give them a call to either talk through maybe some struggles that they're having at home, either, even if they're having difficulty with a bedtime routine or a hygiene routine, they're able to kind of help to problem solve with those parents and put some things in place. Using the good old fashioned telephone is also a way that we're trying to reach out to families and just connect with them. I think right now, connection and relationships is really going to help us to get through this really difficult time, even though it's virtually, or maybe just hearing a friendly voice on the other end of a phone is going to help get some of our kids and our families through. And then our virtual office hours. So if you're having difficulty trying to get in touch with a teacher, we have virtual hours set up, which are all on our website. And parents and kids can log in again and try to get in touch with a friendly voice or a friendly face so that they don't feel as alone right now during this closure. I would just say in closing, please reach out to us. Our administration has been readily available to try to help any of our families who, again, are in need of Chromebooks or in need of groceries or learning materials. We're here to help. We're making home deliveries as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll try to help in any way that we possibly can.
Thank you, Dr. Stacy Rogers. She is the Director of Special Education for Plymouth Public Schools. Please send us your questions, plymouthinfo@pactv.org. We now welcome Gary Costin, also from the Plymouth Public Schools. He's the Business Administrator. Welcome, Gary.
Good afternoon, Steve and everyone else. Thanks for having me.
Gary, what can you tell us as an administrator for Plymouth Public Schools?
Well, my department being, business and operations. First of all, I'd like to have a shout out for our custodial staff who continues to go in and inspect buildings and do safety checks for all our buildings. They're still working, limited as they can, and our food service staff who are going into the buildings and feeding students in Plymouth. They deserve a lot of credit. I know a lot of people are doing a lot of things during this unusual time, but in many ways, our food service and our custodial staff will be the first ones when we go back, whenever that is, to get the schools ready. So I don't get a chance to talk to them very much on Zoom meetings, but we really appreciate what they're doing. The business department, really, our primary job, the way that we look at it, is to support the learning initiatives that are going on within the school district. The new online initiatives, which were crafted and have been put into place that are I really think are amazing. We try to support that in any way we can. Our real responsibilities and what we're seeing now is that our main functions, working closely with the town, is to be able to process payroll and to pay invoices. More and more vendors are looking to be paid, as you can imagine, because they're in needs of funds and revenue for their businesses. So we have a lot of outstanding bills for services that took place prior to the closure that we are processing. The last bill schedule I think we did was over $1.3 million. So we are up and running. We're at 95%. This is not unusual for us because when we've had closures due to snow, we've still had to process payroll. There were periods of times we were closed for 4 or 5 days, and we had to pay bills and process payrolls. We have to make sure people get paid. The other things that we're working on really is working with the federal government. We have grants that are still in place, and we have to make sure that we have applications for next year's grants, because a lot of deadlines, though they've been waived, they are still. And we also have to put in requests for funds from the federal government. We pay a lot of people, a lot of services out of our grant, especially special education, as Stacy well knows, and we have to get those funds in. So we're working with our staff to get those funds also in. The other thing that we are doing, we're looking at working with the DESE. We look for direction from them on payment guidelines and how we in fact pay our our tuitions and our special education out of district placements. There's a lot going on in that area, and Stacy and I know work closely on that, and we are in contact with DSE as are many of our colleagues across the state. We're really part of the mechanical part. I wish we had some more involvement with kids. I really do miss seeing the kids. Looking out my window at Lincoln Street, I used to see the ocean or kids out at the playground, and now I don't see much except trees out my window. So it'd be nice to have the kids back. But we're doing everything we can to support the teachers, and we greatly appreciate what they're doing.
Thank you. And that's Gary Costin. He's the business administrator for Plymouth Public Schools. And each day we have a business segment. Today we're joined by Stephen Cole, the executive director, Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be back. I'm sure the viewers have noticed that I'm no longer in my hermitage on the couch in front of my IKEA wall art. I'm back in the Economic Development Command Center here on Court Street. I have a call this afternoon with the Economic Development Administration. I can give some more details about that in a couple of days, perhaps. But at least for now, I'd like to update folks on the status of the PPP, or the Payroll Protection Program that some folks have become familiar with through the SBA. I am saddened to announce that the program is all but deplete of funding. $350 billion have been given out. I have learned, however, that 27,315 loans were approved in Massachusetts. That is the most in New England. The state behind us that had the second most was Connecticut with 11,930 approved applications. Massachusetts walked away with about $7 billion in the PPP loan protections, and Connecticut walked away with about $3 billion. Now, that money is largely intended, of course, to support businesses as they exist today. Over the last several weeks, I've come on the program mostly to encourage folks, to inform folks about what the foundation is doing, but largely also to inform folks that we are prepared for what is next. The next economy will obviously look different from the one that we're in now. People will behave differently. Restaurants even will have to perform differently. So one of the things I want folks to do while they're sitting at home is to think about the problems that they've been exposed to. What types of things are they aware of now that they weren't aware of before? And if you had a magic wand and a preference to run any kind of a business that you would want to run, I want folks to think about that. In a couple of weeks, I think that we'll be making a little bit of an announcement. And anyone in range of my voice who takes seriously what I'm saying will probably be in a very good position and have a little bit of a head start. But I am glad to say that we are in a very good position to secure some funding from the Economic Development Administration. We have about $350,000 worth of projects in their pipeline. We are exhausting right now some of their normal and regular appropriations that comes on an annual or cyclical basis. And as they are learning how they're able to use their CARES Act funds in different ways beyond the PPP, we are going to be in a very good position here in Plymouth to be competitive in our grants and to attract some of that additional resources to our community.
That's Stephen Cole. He's the executive director, Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. Each day, we are joined by Mathew Muratore, Plymouth State Representative. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. How you doing today? How's everybody?
Good.
To our panelists for coming on today, some great information. Again, shout out to the schools and to the teachers and custodians and everyone who's making a difference in all of our lives. Let's start off with some numbers today. Remember the modeling that has been discussed for the last month. The projections look like that when we put these projections together a month ago as a state, looked like somewhere between 47,000 and 205,000 cases of confirmed COVID-19. As of today, or as of yesterday at 10 a.m., we have 29,918, almost 30,000. And that is from 132,023 people that have been tested. So there's been over 132,000 folks tested in the Commonwealth, which is 1.8% of the population. And of those, as I indicated, the 29,918 is 22.7% have been confirmed with the COVID-19 from those that have been tested. Now, the interesting enough, and the amount of deaths, unfortunately, the highest total we've had so far, for a second day in a row, keeps rising. We had 151 deaths from the day before. So we are now over 1,000. We're at 1,108, which is 3.7% of those that have tested positive have unfortunately passed away. Now, what's interesting in these numbers is the number of the testing is we still did almost 5,500 tests in 24 hours. So that's still consistent. However, the amount of cases of confirmed cases of COVID-19 have dropped. So that the difference between the 24-hour difference was only 1,755 cases, where we've been averaging well over 2,000, well over 2,500 cases increase on a daily basis. That number is actually starting to drop. So we are in the surge. There's no doubt about that. And the amount of deaths will continue to increase. The projections that we looked at when we did this modeling as a state had somewhere between 705 and 2,500 deaths. Well, we're well over the 705, and we will looks like we'll be closing in on that 2,500 mark, but it doesn't look like it'll go over that. Maybe at this rate, maybe it'll go maybe around 2,000 or so, but we'll just have to see. But at least some good news in all this is that the number of confirmed cases from the testing seem to be dropping. So we'll see how that continues to play out. Also, some good news is that with all the field hospitals that have been put in place, the amount of beds that are still open in the Commonwealth are close to 50%. That includes ICU beds as well as regular beds as well. So those plans seem to be working at this point, even during the surge. In Plymouth County, the numbers again only increased by 108 of confirmed cases out of the 502,000 people in Plymouth County, which is less than 0.5% have been confirmed. 2,308 have a confirmed case of COVID-19. And in the town of Plymouth, again, less than 0.5%, it's 108 people in the town of Plymouth that have tested positive. In the long-term care industry, and there's been a lot of discussion about this, particularly the last several days, but even since we started this, and when we started this show, I got a little emotional about talking about this several weeks ago, because I knew the seniors in these populations, whether it's a skilled nursing facility, assisted living, or a rest home, would be the folks that would be endangered by this, and it has come to fruition. We're climbing every day. 48% of the deaths now come from one of these long-term care facilities. So that number is still rising. However, if you look at the overall percentage of that, it's still a small percentage. There are approximately 70,000 people, 60,000 people living in these assisted living nursing homes and rest homes in the Commonwealth. So the percentage of deaths at 530 is still, it's terrible when somebody does lose a loved one like this, but the percentage is still somewhat low. The number of tests that long-term care facilities have done to date are 4,572 tests. And of those tested, 4,163 have tested positive. This includes, again, staff as well as residents that live in these facilities. And at least one facility, there's one case in 222 facilities out of almost 700 in the Commonwealth that has a confirmed case of COVID-19. And again, what we discussed yesterday on the show was that now nursing facilities are able to now get tests, and we're trying to get that word out, that if you are a long-term care facility, an assisted living, or a rest home, please contact the Department of Public Health, get your tests, request the test. You can start testing folks, everyone yourself in the facilities, including staff. So the sooner we can get this done within the Commonwealth, the sooner we'll have a better baseline of where we actually stand. With regard to PPE, the personal protective equipment, since the beginning of March, the nursing facilities have received 1.3 million masks, along with 200,000 gowns and over 2 million gloves. And that will still continue to evolve, and folks will still continue to get the proper equipment they need. With regard to unemployment, the unemployment rate, the folks who filed for unemployment this past week, the numbers just came through this morning. We're now 103,000 filed last week. So if you remember correctly, the first week this happened over 3 weeks ago, there was 172. Then last week it was 147 filed. Now we're at 103. So it is starting to drop off a little bit. It's still very high. We're still projecting 25% unemployment rate in Massachusetts when this is all said and done. But at least the number is dropping somewhat. So we have a total of 572,000 people who have filed for unemployment in 3 weeks. There are 600 folks working on the unemployment office. Prior to this epidemic beginning in middle of March, there were 50 people working in the unemployment, Division of Unemployment. Now we're over 600 people, and they are doing the best they can to get calls back to people, and questions answered, et cetera. Our office and with my fantastic Chief of Staff, Betty DeBenedictis, is fielding calls, as long as all my other colleagues are fielding calls left and right with regard to unemployment. So folks are having unemployment issues, and they're not getting any satisfaction on getting calls back. Be patient, but if you need help, reach out to our office or reach out to your local state rep's office. Interestingly enough, I was on a call with the Sunrise Rotary this morning, as I am a Rotarian, and Jack Socio, who's the Executive Director of Social Community Action Council, was talking about the need for food. And I think, Steve, he's going to be on our show Monday or Tuesday next week. But it's amazing how many families in just the town of Plymouth that are in need of food. So there will be a plea out through the Social Community Action Council. They are accepting donations, which is the best way to do this now. They've received over $70,000 in the last month in donations for food, which is the best way to do it. Then they can have their staff go out and purchase the food from the food bank. But there is a growing need of food. And again, while the schools are on this call, thank you so much for what you're doing with our students and the parents and the families in this community, helping out with food. I mean, it's something we've never seen before, but thank God you folks have stepped up and are really helping these families out. With regard to the legislation on the state side, the House and the Senate reached a deal on evictions. So that has gone to the governor's desk today. We're just waiting for the governor to sign this. And basically, landlords cannot terminate or send notices to terminate any leases or rents. And the courts will not be able to handle any complaints entering judgments or default judgments at this point. And also for small businesses, if you're not able to pay your rent, there'll be no charges for late fees. So they're not going to be able to charge late fees either. So there'll be more specifics that will come out on this. We expect the governor to sign this today, and we'll be able to get more specifics out to folks with regard to eviction notices for folks that are on rent, or even with mortgages, people that have mortgages as well. There'll be some information on that as well. But basically, there's going to be people will be allowed to delay their mortgage payments and not get charged any late fees or interest on that. So more to come on that. And the governor's going to be on. Actually, he's probably on right now. We're coming on, so we'll get more information as that comes up. But I do want to give a shout out to and anybody who's watching now and wants to join this. The police and fire in Plymouth County, including the town of Plymouth, will be gathering at Plymouth North High School by 2:45 today. They are going to drive by the hospital and give a real shout out. They're going to have a procession to give a real shout out to all the healthcare workers that include all the employees, that not just the nurses and doctors, but all the employees that are working at BID Plymouth. And if you want to be a part of that, again, try to get to Plymouth North High School by 2:30 today and do a drive-by, beep the horn, and let's show our sincere thanks for what they are doing on the front line to really help us stay safe and to save lives. So that's at 2:45 today. And that's my update for today, Steve.
Thank you. That is Representative Mathew Muratore, Plymouth State Representative. We do these daily updates to provide you with verified information from officials and from experts serving the Plymouth community. We are in contact constantly with local, state, and federal officials. Each week we have a representative from Congressman Keating's office. And in fact, during the forums we're communicating, I've been communicating with Representative Muratore since we came on the air. New York has extended its stay-at-home order till May 15th. We know that Governor Baker has been communicating directly with other Northeast governors Representative Muratore has told you the governor is now on with his message, and if we have any updates, we'll bring that to you. We'd like to now go to our question and answer. Your questions can come to PlymouthInfo@pactv.org. And as we go to the questions, we're looking forward also to tomorrow's lineup. Ken Tavares, Mathew Muratore, and I will be joined by Timothy Cruz, who is the Plymouth County District Attorney, and Sheriff Joseph McDonald, Plymouth County Sheriff. They'll be talking about scams that are out there during the COVID-19. Also, Michelle Pecoraro will be responding to recent questions that have arisen regarding the Plymouth 400 Inc. celebration. Amy Naples will again join us as she does each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And looking forward to next week, we will not be doing a Plymouth COVID update on Monday since it was originally scheduled to be Patriots Day. There's training here at PAC TV. We will, however, be showing a regional update that includes 3 local legislators, Representative Muratore, Kathy Lenatra, and also Josh Cutler, as well as several experts in the medical field. That will be on Monday. And on Tuesday, as Representative Muratore told you, we'll be welcoming the Executive Director from South Shore Community Action Council. And at this time, we're going to go to our questions. Our first question goes back to Joseph McIntyre, the Assistant Clerk Magistrate for the Southeast Housing Court. Joe, you just heard Representative Muratore talking about pending legislation with respect to evictions that we expect to have signed today. Can you comment as to how the Housing Court handles legislation that comes down on the same day when you're in session?
Well, we will follow whatever is the law. I presume that the judges will study it and will give us guidance as to how we are to interpret it in the day-to-day operation. It strikes me that the significance of the huge significance of it is what will not happen. If I understand the terms correctly, it terminates or it ends the ability of a landlord to terminate a tenancy, which would mean you would dramatically reduce the amount of business that the court would be handling once we return after May 4th. So in other words, you're turning off the spigot, that we are not receiving new cases that will be scheduled sometime after May 4th. So that would be the most dramatic impact, and would also, I think, help in terms of restoring the court to its normal operation. In other words, we'll cut down on the backlog of cases that we will be addressing sometime after May 4th. But the leadership of the Housing Court will digest the legislation. I'm sure they've already been doing that, and they will. We will implement those directions, those directives, and that guidance in order to accomplish whatever the goals of that legislation. And certainly, if it is to take effect immediately, then likewise, it will be implemented on a like basis in the Housing Court. So, a long way of saying, if the legislature has provided new rules by which the Housing Court is to operate during the interim, then those will be implemented immediately. And it would appear that it will have a beneficial impact on both landlords and tenants and how the Housing Court operates.
Thank you. That is Joseph McIntyre. He is the Assistant Clerk Magistrate for the Southeast Housing Court. And again, the website, masscourts.org. You can go to that website for updates. Each of our participants have had the opportunity to hear each other speak today. We'd like to go around and ask each of the members of our panel if there is any final thought, closing words that you'd like to share with the people who are watching. We're going to begin with Dr. Stacy Rogers, the Director of Special Education for the Plymouth Public Schools. Stacy, what would be a takeaway that you'd want the community to remember?
Again, just to reach out to us if you guys are having any issues with technology. We're here to support you, and we'll get through this together. And stay healthy, stay well. And again, I think communication and connection is the most important thing that we can do for each other, even though it's virtually. So stay connected. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any other member of our administrative team or education team. And we will do our best to try to assist you.
Thank you. That's Dr. Stacy Rogers. She's the Director of Special Education, Plymouth Public Schools. Gary Costin, Plymouth Public Schools Business Administrator. You told us that you're continuing to pay the vendors. We're happy to hear that. And that the custodial staff are keeping the schools clean and safe. Any final words you'd like the community to remember?
Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you for doing this. I think it's important that Plymouth knows really what's going on behind the scenes for all the operations. Just that we continue to work with the town, and we continue to maintain our fiduciary responsibilities for the town of Plymouth, and at the same time, we're looking towards the future, to opening next year, and to see how how we're going to do that, and we look forward to seeing those yellow school buses be running around town as soon as possible.
Thank you, Gary Costin, Business Administrator, Plymouth Public Schools. Stephen Cole, our business segment. What would you like our viewers to take away today?
I like that you just assumed I had something to say, Steve, and I do. Incidentally, we have different types of entrepreneurs that we can look at. There's serial entrepreneurs, first-time and one-time entrepreneurs, immigrant entrepreneurs are very fun people to work with. We all know, though, that the average age or the median age in our area is a little higher than other parts of the country and perhaps even other parts of the state. And what that means to me is that we have a pretty strong population of what we call encore entrepreneurs. These are people who are either retired or semi-retired. They have a lifetime of experience either running a business or running some kind of a corporate level office or division. There's a lot of experience there, and new businesses, especially startups, could tap into that experience from our encore entrepreneurs and assist them with being successful. So if you are watching at home and you are what you might consider an encore entrepreneur, someone who is retired or semi-retired, who has an interest in assisting small businesses, please send me an email. I would like very much to put you in touch with our small business community that we're working with now, as well as some of the folks we have in our pipeline who I do expect will be successful, even in the new economy, in starting up their idea. So my email is stephen.cole@plymouth-ma.biz. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate every week letting me back here to talk about this, and I look forward to new and refreshing subject matters next week.
Thank you, and that's Stephen Cole. He's the Executive Director, Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. We're going to go back to Joseph McIntyre. Joe, any final thoughts for our viewers?
Stay safe, stay healthy. Come see us if you have an emergency. Otherwise, we'll see you sometime after May 4th.
Thank you, and that's Joseph McIntyre. He's the Assistant Clerk Magistrate for the Southeast Housing Court serving the town of Plymouth. State Representative Mathew Muratore, your closing statement today.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I'm just trying to get some updates on the governor speaking now, but it doesn't look like there's anything new at this point. So no other new orders or anything at this point. I do want to just say one more thing to clarify on the evictions for the housing. It doesn't mean people don't have to pay. They're going to have to pay. So they just won't have to pay right now, but eventually they will have to pay their rent or their mortgages. So just kind of keep that in mind as this process goes through. As always, we thank everyone who's out there, working on our behalf. All the essential workers that are out there today. We're really in town of Plymouth, going to be honoring the folks that work at BID Plymouth, but we also need to, honor the folks that are working in the nursing facilities, the assisted livings, and the rest homes that are caring for our senior population and those that are very vulnerable to this disease. So our hats go off to all of them. And as I say every day, just make sure you stay informed. Go to mass.gov/COVID-19, or if you have questions, call 211. If you want text alerts, go to COVID-MA and text 888-777. Or if you have questions on your health, bowie.com/mass. Stay home, Again, as I've been saying, we're actually saving lives. The more you stay home, the more lives you can actually save, because you're not spreading this awful disease or this virus. So you are making a difference by staying at home. And we're going to get through this surge. As I said, it's happening now, but we're going to come off the other end very soon, and we're going to start seeing that flattening of the curve. So continue doing what you're doing, and stay calm. And remember, the more we come together by staying apart, the faster we'll get back to the people that we love and the things we love to do. So thanks again, Steve, and to PAC TV and everyone out there that's doing a great job at what they're doing.
Thank you. That's Plymouth State Representative Mathew Muratore, and we thank him and all of our guests today that include Joseph McIntyre, Assistant Clerk Magistrate, Southeast Housing Court, also Dr. Stacy Rogers, Director of Special Education, Plymouth Public Schools. She's joined by Gary Costin, the Business Administrator, Plymouth Public Schools, Stephen Cole, the Executive Director, Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. And as we close out today's update number 26, we turn back to Ken Tavares, Chair of the Plymouth Board of Selectmen. Ken, your thoughts?
Thank you, Steve. I just want to take a minute to actually thank you, Steve, for the work that you do. You have your own practice, plus helping put this program together every day. It's extremely helpful to the community. And also to Matt Muratore. I don't think there's been a day since this all started that I haven't spoken to Matt about something that we needed from the state or information. And without a senator, everything falls on his shoulders for Plymouth, along with Kathy Lenatra. Thank you to both of you. Also, I want to assure the public that Town Hall is in business. Some of the work that we do is taking longer than we'd like, but there are limited times that staff are available in Town Hall. Also, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen that has been very much behind the scenes, still answering questions, gathering information, and advising. And that is extremely important to the continuation of the running of the government. Thank you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes, we will see you tomorrow, joined by Ken Tavares and Mathew Muratore. And again, our lineup tomorrow include Plymouth County District Attorney Timothy Cruz. He's joined by Plymouth County Sheriff Joseph McDonald, and they're both returning. They'll be talking about scams, among other things. Also returning Michelle Precarero, and she is the Executive Director for the Plymouth 400. On Fridays, our business segment. Amy Naples, Executive Director, Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce. I'm Steve Triffletti, Plymouth Town Moderator. We'll be coming to you each day, Monday through Friday. Thank you for joining us on update number 26, coming to you live on April 16th, 2020. Good day.